guide me across the lonely roads that I may face. Take my arms and let your hand show me the way. Show the way to live inside your heart all my days. All my life. You are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my light. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life.
Good day, everyone. To ALPAS Health Community, I commend your initiative into making mental health a global priority. On the occasion of Mental Health Awareness Week, thank you for providing a valuable opportunity to highlight steps on how to improve our mental health and well-being. Mental health is a common stigma, and I am hopeful with all your efforts, we will reduce the discrimination against people with mental illnesses and make everyone more aware of its reality. We in the City Government of Baguio are with you in advocating for a mentally healthy society. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
All right, and that was our mayor of Baguio City, Mayor Benjamin Magalog. So let me all welcome you to Not All Scars Can Be Seen. I am your host, Nathan Santos, and today we'll be talking about, of course, mental health. And of course, we here at ALPAS Mental Health Community, of course, it is our advocacy and it is our very goal to uplift everyone who are mental health warriors and, hopefully also improve the way our city or our country take mental health. We hope to, end this stigma once and for all. And before we officially move on to, I know a lot of you guys are waiting for our wonderful guest. We'll have Attorney Tabanda for our welcoming remarks.
What are the deepest and heaviest scars that one can have? Are they the big scars or the smallest scars? I think the scars that hurt the most are those that cannot be seen. The scars that remain open and unhealed. The ones that make you vulnerable the most. The ones that impact your lives. The ones that are in your heart and mind. These go by the name of mental health issues and illnesses. They are scars and wounds that have stayed inside your mind for a very long time. Battles that have hurt you through time. Struggles that you have kept hidden and hold up inside. Mental health is a topic that needs to be addressed. Hopefully, with the help of everyone, we can find hope and light to live one day at a time. That despite the odds, we push on to feel and not invalidate our conditions, our emotions, to be able to process our feelings and be better individuals. We are a community and we help each other to move forward despite diversity. Together, we can make things work. Not all scars can be seen. Not all screams can be heard. Not all scars can be healed fast. but know that we can do something even if the healing takes time, as long as we have the courage to keep on. Learn to await the future for life. Learn to live daily because life is beautiful. Despite the screams and the emotions, life has to go on. Enjoy it. Savor it as it has been. Know that you are not alone. Know that we are here to help you. Know that you can count on us to help you through this battle. As we open Mental Health Month, we say, look out for us. We are here to help. This is Councilor Betty Lourdes Tabanda, the chairperson of the Sangguniang Committee on Health and Sanitation, telling you, count on us. We are here to help.
All right, that was Councilor Tabanda. And yeah, I guess she said it well now. We are all here for you. We here at Alpas Mental Health Community. And of course, with the help of the city government of Baguio. I think I'm proud to say that our city has been one of the most forward when it comes to mental health because uh, they've been helping a lot with improving the mental health community here in our city. They've been working with a lot of non-government organizations and especially us here at Alpas. And speaking of Alpas, before we fully welcome our guest, she will be introduced by one of our own, uh, Leslie of Alpas.
Hi everyone, my name is Leslie and I am the president of ALPAS Mental Health Community Incorporated. It is with pride and honor that I introduce you to the man of the hour and the guest speaker of this event. He is a comfort zone coach, a digital marketing specialist, and a director of growth strategy and customer experience of Lupo Digital. He is well adept in mental health awareness and shares his experiences as an individual. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce you to Mr. Glenn Miller. Thank you.
All right, and again, that was the president of our post mental health community, and I have here beside me to my I'm not sure the orientation of the feet to my left or right, Mr. Glenn Miller. So good morning, or I should say good afternoon for you, Mr.
Hey
Glenn.
Nathan, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for giving us the opportunity for this wonderful talk that we're gonna have um, this morning or this afternoon for you. So let's get right into it. So, cause yeah, I was your introduction show you into marketing and all that. So, how did you end up in the mental health community?
It's a great question. Thanks, Nathan. I unfortunately, I have my mother, my late mother passed away from a terminal disease, and that was called mesothelioma, which is asbestos cancer, which comes from asbestos. So she had some other health issues, but when we received the diagnosis, it would be about 3 years ago now, that she has this condition. Unfortunately, it's man-made. It comes from a chemical called asbestos, and that's in paint. It's in a whole lot of things. And I think that really gave me a big wake up. I've had some interesting influences in my life. There was a tsunami in Thailand almost 20 years ago now. I was involved in that.
Wow.
And really my mother's diagnosis tipped me over the edge because being in the tsunami, you're staring almost death in the face at some level, but when a really close loved one is diagnosed with a critical illness, it's something quite difficult to comprehend. And it also woke me up to a whole lot of exciting things in my life. It's a terrible thing and it's a difficult time, and I think the state of mind and mental health really made open my eyes to the loved ones around me and the people around me and how people deal with things. And so that was really the catalyst that got me into identifying that the mind is such a strong machine, and that there's a lot more I could do with my mental state to help other people.
Oh, right. Thank you. That is, I just I can't imagine even being the whole tsunami. That was worldwide news. It was just from out of nowhere.
Yeah,
But up till now, when you look at videos of it, it's still harrowing to see that something like that can happen. And uh, I totally understand where you're coming from when with the story with your mother, Glenn, because my mom was also diagnosed with, unfortunately, with breast cancer back then. So
yeah,
it really also affected me mentally, and it was one of the reasons why like one of the, or I guess the main reason why I ended up having, depression and bipolar disorder. So
you're
I'm
right.
it's you're right, things like that really affects us. At first we don't think it does, and then it really affects us mentally, physically, and all that. It can be quite it's amazing how you're now turning all those traumatic experiences into, turn using those to help out people. So when we talk about mental health, since you mentioned it, how you wanted to how it has now affected a lot of people, what is mental health to you?
Look, I think for me, probably in one sentence, it's really state of mind is maybe a good way to, that I see it. Um, and I think there's a lot of influences that play into that state of mind. I think just talking about the examples you and I have mentioned with loved ones, and mum actually had breast cancer before.
Oh.
But I think, unfortunately, we live in a world where everybody is affected by somebody else
Mhm.
that has some kind of difficulty. And then there's also the internal struggles that we
Mhm.
all go through every single day. And I'm really lucky. So I think for me, mental health is that state of mind. And, we wake up in the morning, and, no 2 days are ever the same, although they sometimes feel the same. And I really think that we have an ability to take control of our mental state. And when I look at the loved ones around me, I started to realize my mother was an exceptionally positive human being. She also had breast cancer before she got this mesothelioma, and she beat it. And she's just someone who always sees the glass half full. It's a very positive individual. And until that event, we got the bad news about her. I just expected that, people wake up happy like I do every
Mhm.
day. And when I started, spending time with the family and grieving just the news in the early days, I started to see before me that for me, I'm an eternal optimist. I only see the good in things. And for me, mental health, when I started to see the people around me and realize that, for some of them, they actually have to wake up and put on a happy, brave face every day. I started to realize that mental health is a lot more than just the smile on your face or like putting your shoes on. For some people, it's really a massive effort. And I think that sensitivity and all its connectedness is really what mental health is for me all about.
All right. I like what you said that it can be difficult for each people, like just putting on a brave face, because especially a lot of the times, like as you said, some days just every day is not the same, but to some people it feels like every single day, especially when they're going through something that, you know,
Yeah,
even getting up from bed, it's already a drag, it's already a huge chore, and then putting on a brave face just to smile to people and just to let people know that, oh no, you don't have to worry about me. I'm fine. I guess sometimes we get caught up in the problems of the people around us that we sometimes forget ourselves, because that's
yeah,
also a huge issue also. And that sometimes, yeah, as you said, everyone has this brave face. So because we don't want people to, I guess, in a way, pity us with
hmm,
everything that's happening all around us. Um, while we're talking about mental health, since you're from Australia and all, because here in the Philippines, mental health is still, how you say, it's still a bud here, because we're
yeah.
making strides, but we're still on our baby steps into officially accepting or taking mental health seriously. How about in Australia? How does the Australian government or people take mental health?
Yeah, so I think, look, let me preface it by saying
Mhm.
I'm not a qualified expert per
Mhm.
se. I don't represent the government. I'm a average person in the street, so to speak. I started my podcast outside your comfort zone, and I created the Comfort Zone Coach.
Mhm.
But the interviews that I've had with some of the episodes that I've created, I've had both professionals and links to the government. And so I think what I've observed is that, and I kind of recommend going to health.gov.au, and more specifically, there's health topics around mental health and suicide prevention. So I think for me, where Australia is probably really good is I lived in South Africa. You can probably hear by my accent. When I was 21, I immigrated. But I think Australia is a very kind of middle class mindset, if I can call it that. Some countries have a real high end and a real low end in terms of the population. And I think what the government here has done really, really well is an infrastructure, dare I say, of community, people looking out for one another. And I think the ethos is largely about that. So you've got um, there's crisis lines that you can call that are free. They're funded by the government in part. They're not for profits, obviously, but there's, we've got a telephone number you can call for Lifeline, which is anyone who needs help. They fear for their life, and it's not just mental. But I think Australia, and certainly cities and pockets of cities, suburbs, like have some of the highest suicide rates in the globe. And it could be things like dental issues. It could be things, obviously, mental health, but finance, that kind of thing. But I think Australia woke up to the fact that there are a lot of volunteers that help with these organizations. And I think it's similar to what you guys are doing. It's just got to start with planting one seed. So I think, a lot said there, but I think the government, what they've got quite right is, coming back to community and coming back to helping. And that website's a really great resource because it outlines more of the formal things that the government is doing. And it spans, like I say, not just mental health, but physical, community-based. And then I think just the support where community is working with the government with things like Lifeline and these resources where you can phone up and you can be anonymous, you can give your name, but really there's someone on the other line who's listening. And I think mostly that's probably the best thing I see is that there's someone there to help when help is needed.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Just knowing that someone is there could really uh, affect someone in more ways than one than we can imagine. Because back in during my darkest moments, I could have really appreciated someone who was just there to listen, who was there to understand with no judgment whatever I am going through. Because and it's amazing that your community is also really with along with the government is really helping out and taking it seriously for you guys because as you said there are a lot of I guess suicide cases, I guess especially more when we went through the past 2 years with the pandemic and all.
Yeah.
I guess the suicide rates are like was there more cases for you guys?
Yeah, I think, look, there's really important statistics coming out now that a lot of people struggled. We heard it on the news, we heard it on the radio. Um, I think two things. One, people that suffer from mental health were at risk of really getting deeper into those concerns. And so we heard a lot of advertising, a lot of shows on TV promoting if you need help, reach out, a reinforcement. I think they quickly deployed, remote people being able through video and the internet helping other people. So 100%. And then even now through COVID, they're starting to release data of depression and
Hmm.
how many people struggled, and I think, I don't know, in terms of your community, maybe it's more represented by adults, but we're also seeing a big trend in kids and
Hmm.
teens and young adults because, that kids want to go out and play. And when you're stuck at home and you're forced in a room and you're just with family and older
Yeah.
people, it's extremely difficult. So I think it's going to be interesting to see in the years ahead. There are a lot of teens and kids, and there's a lot of data coming out now that's really where the impact was quite difficult and felt quite massively.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly as you said, it's also the same thing that happened here because of the 2 years and all that. We also had a lot of increasing cases about like 11 years old, 12 years old, suffering from all these mental health problems and like we even hear some news like even kids unfortunately succumbing to you know the darkest of times. And as you said, it's a lot of things, financial, physical, and all that. I guess it all just piled up, especially during the pandemic. Anyway, moving forward for that, since you mentioned about the comfort coach and your podcast, how did you get started with that? Because it's very mental health related. How
Yeah.
did you end up starting with all that?
So through COVID, and so it's a good segue. Through the pandemic, I have a training partner, and when I say training, a physical, I've always been quite fit in my life. Um, so I'll take a few steps back and just bring it all together, because during the pandemic, there were times we were restricted to 5 kilometers of home. You couldn't do exercise. So before the pandemic, I do trail running, I do long distance endurance, ultra trails, your 50-kilometer, 100-kilometer runs, which is just mental, and I love it because it's so difficult. But being told during the pandemic you have to exercise within a 5 kilometer radius was quite tough. So my
Mhm.
training partner phoned me and he said, look, we've got months and months with this thing. We've got to find some kind of challenge we can do. And he introduced me to a chap called David Goggins. And if the audience hasn't heard of David Goggins, I would recommend looking up David Goggins. He's just written a book called Can't Hurt Me. He was abused as a child. He's an American athlete, soldier, Navy SEAL,
Wow.
but he has a challenge called the 48-hour challenge. And the goal is to try and run 4 miles every 4 hours over 48 hours.
Wow.
So if, for example, if you start at 6 o'clock in the night, you run 4 miles, which is 6.4 kilometers. That takes about 40 minutes, let's say. You come home, you might eat, and then at 10 p.m., you do it again 4 hours later. And then you come home, you probably watch some TV, you return at 2 p.m. 2 a.m.
Another four
and
miles.
you do it again, and you repeat this for 48 hours. So 76 kilometers over 48 hours, and we did it twice. We did it once in May as 4 kilometers, not 4 miles, just to see if we could do it.
Hmm.
And then we did it again in November, and it was roughly the time we got the news about my mother.
Mm.
And I'd never raised money for a charity through all my events that I've done, and I've done quite a few. And I turned to my mum and I said, look, while you're here and you're still with us, I would love to raise money on your behalf.
Mhm.
And she selected a charity of her choice, and we raised 17,500 Australian dollars for
Wow.
that charity doing this event. And it was during that I was doing a lot of social media and posts, and just about our training and about our fitness regime and about our diet and even about the mental health part of it, because you've got to continually work on your mental state to
Hmm.
push
Yes.
yourself. But when I completed that challenge, I had friends and family come up to me, and about 2 weeks later, when I wasn't posting anymore, they were coming and saying, look, we really miss your posts. You were so inspirational, you were so motivational. And I used to do things like come out and run with us. We're doing our training, and I'll be in this area 10 o'clock tonight. And if you're struggling to get off the couch or you're stuck at work, just drop your pen, get off the couch, come and join us. And we had a whole lot of friends, and we built this little community of people who said, look, I wasn't running 2 months ago, and now I'm running, and I want to be there by your side. And yes, we've donated, but we then said to people, come out and run with us. Just come do one of the runs with us, of the 12 or so runs that we did. And it was through that people said, look, we miss you and we'd love to see something. And the other thing is, when mum got this diagnosis, it really changed my world, because for years and years and years, I procrastinated. I've always wanted to do this thing. I've always wanted to stand up paddle. I've always wanted to use a mountain bike. And when we got this diagnosis about mum, it just made me realize that we procrastinate too much as human beings. And really, all that procrastination is sitting in one thing. It's just a case of making a decision. So I think for me, I founded and began the Comfort Zone Coach. And I realized that I really get excited about challenging myself and stepping outside that comfort zone. And when I sat back and realized, oh, what is a comfort zone? And is it defined? Is it abstract? I realized, hey, I'm onto something here. And I did some Google searching, and no one has really done a comfort zone coach. And then, my whole podcast is where it started, with just helping people get outside their comfort zone, or
Hmm.
even just sit back and say, hang on, I haven't stopped to think about what is my comfort zone? What makes me comfortable? And do I want to push the boundaries a little bit? And I think sometimes distraction helps us deal with things mentally. You sit at home and you fester up and you worry and you think and you think and you think. And sometimes you think, you know what, I'm just going to go out for a run. It actually clears the mind. And so putting all that together, I realized that, if I could start a podcast and help coach people to not get too focused and drilled in because it's a bit cloudy in your head, but actually say, hang on, if I wrote down on a piece of paper, what is my comfort zone? Where am I comfortable? And do I want to push the boundaries a little bit? Not dangerously, just all these things I've wanted to do in my life. Have I actually written down what they are? Can I go out and start to achieve them? And when you just start to act and you stop thinking so much, magic starts to happen. And that's kind of when I took the bull by the horns, as they say, and I formalized the comfortzonecoach.com.au, and I started the podcast. I also took on a podcast coach because what did I know about podcasting at the time? And yes, I'm deeply ingrained in digital marketing. We like to think our company is a leader in the space. So I fully understand the space. But somehow when it's your own and when you have to start, it's a little bit different and it's a bit difficult to get going. So yeah, so that's how the magic kind of happened, and it all came together. And yeah, it's slow and it's small steps. We officially launched about 18 months ago, but trying to build a community.
All right, that's a beautiful story. I love how at the root of all this, it was your mother. She was really
Yeah,
the inspiration, or like I think this is I think I guess it's safe to say this is her legacy for you now,
yeah,
because she's her adversity made you do all these amazing things. And instead of normally a lot of people, especially as you said, first she had breast cancer, and then thankfully she was able to defeat it. And then, as unfortunately, that asbestos illness related thing. Actually, it's also it blows my mind when you mentioned asbestos, because it is still used a lot in
yeah,
this day, like in
yep,
roads, in yeah, paint and all that. I'm just like, we're just using something that could actually be very detrimental to our health. And I love how instead of just brooding, or like letting it take over your all your life, because I know being, or like having a family member who's going through something, a terminal illness, it can be very taxing mentally. I love how instead of, like how you said, you instead of just letting it defeat you, you turned into all these wonderful things, being a coach, having a community, and yeah, even building a podcast. And yeah, I guess it all boils down to, I love how you said that you should write down what is your comfort zone. And because a lot of us tend to just stay in that zone, because it is the one where we feel at home and we feel safest, and we don't want anything to change in that area. I
yeah.
guess that's why nobody wants to leave that area.
Absolutely. And also, Nathan, I think the word purpose is also very important. That sometimes until the human nature is to always worry about yourself, and I'm
Yes.
sure within your community, people with mental health, not only that, but I have three brothers. I'm very lucky. Obviously my father is he's still around, and I have three children. I have a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old now, but they were much younger. And so I think even that as parents, when you've got these little children looking at you and watching you and putting on that smile, happy, brave face, I've actually, we're quite open, my wife and I, with how we talk to our children, but it's difficult because sometimes you can't control conversations or
Mhm.
doctors' conversations and timing and when people are around. But I think that, as I said before, for me, what I noticed, the biggest problem is procrastination. Should I stand up today? Should I go outside today? And if you look back and say the purpose, whether you've got children, in my case, three little faces looking back at you, or something little, or you're the breadwinner and you've got to go out there and earn money. All these things come down to purpose
Mhm.
and identity. And I think even with social media today, there's so many influences around us pushing us down.
Yes.
And I think what I hear you saying there is it's also reactive versus proactive.
Yes.
Do we want to let the world around us shape who we are and pushing us to do things, or do we want to actually wake up and say, I'm ignoring social
Yeah.
media and I'm ignoring what I hear, and I'm going to sit down and decide, what do I want to do with my time? What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to go? And
Mhm.
sometimes, for me, a good old-fashioned pen and paper is still quite important. Um, but if just writing down that purpose, and when you start to think of the good things you have, even if money's difficult,
Yes.
that purpose is so important.
Yeah. I love. I love what you said. Yeah, writing down things and uh, appreciating what you have, and instead of just yeah, like money can be difficult, but you have all these things. For example, yeah, I guess back in the pandemic, because I work in the events industry, uh, it was a huge
Wow.
struggle because there was no events for years, and
No.
yeah, my mental health plummeted. But yeah, you were right in saying things like that. What that's because that was also what I did. I looked at what I have. I have all these beautiful animals. At least,
Yeah.
despite all the fact that all this is happening, I still have I still have my family. I still have my friends. I have still have a roof uh, over me and all that. Sometimes we, especially since you mentioned influencers, sometimes influencers put up this. I guess you could agree with me that they give us unrealistic expectations with our lives, especially with all kinds of influencers with wealth, with fitness, and all that. That sometimes we just look at that is the ideal, that we forget to look at the things we already have. Because uh like recently, not to pick up my own bench, but yeah, I went on a fitness journey of myself. Because like you said, you sometimes you have to write down uh, a goal, uh, what I forgot your term, a purpose. Yeah, you should have
Yeah.
a purpose. And in my case, I my purpose was I wanted to started living healthy because I'm not getting any younger, and and I wanted to like lose a lot, lose some weight. Because yeah, this is the pandemic, and I'm glad I'm like after 3 months of like going to the gym, making it really regular. Because yeah, I guess it is outside my comfort zone because I just stay home and play video games and
Yeah.
all that. It was way outside my comfort zone. And and you were right when I stopped looking at everything around me, that how yeah, it's being proactive and reactive. I stopped comparing myself to everything around me, that oh, they can do this, they can do that, why am I unable to do this and all that. I just focused on myself and improving myself, and because that was my purpose. I just wanted to live my life to the fullest without and
But you
without
know what's interesting,
Mhm.
Nathan, is even in your example, I find, and there's a saying I'm borrowing this, and I don't know who came up with it, but there's a good saying which I live by every day. You know, planning to fail or failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yes.
And it's weird that through when I had my firstborn, he was a year old, and I've never been more overweight in my life. I used to be really fit in my early youth,
Hmm.
gym, pushing weights, getting big. I got married. I started working. Work took over me. But a year into my first child's birth, I was, big on the waistline. I'd lost all my shape, and I'd wake up and he just started sleeping through the night, and I
Yeah.
was exhausted. I remember I had a 12-night sleep for the first 12 hours sleep for the first time one night, and I was exhausted. But that day I said to my wife, I can't allow this to happen anymore.
Yes.
And I remember saying, what is a time slot that I can lock in, that whether we've got one child or 10, I can shut out the rest of the world and lock in my special times, three, four
Yes.
times a week. So for me, that was always 6 to 7 a.m. because people are not awake yet. And I kind of said, can I lock this time in that no matter what happens, if I go overseas, I go away, someone comes to visit, that's a time where it's never going to get disrupted. And literally, I sit here probably almost 16 years later, and that's how it started.
Hmm.
But then I said, well, what's the goal? And I actually wrote down a plan of trying to do a marathon. And it took me about 3 years to train and do it and talk to people and learn about nutrition. But a long story short, 3, 4, 5 long marathon distances later, each time I finish one, I kind of say, all right, what's the plan for the next one?
Yes, exactly.
And I've looked back now and I cannot believe it's been 16 years later. I think it was the same with the podcast and the same with the Comfort Zone Coach, that when you actually have a plan down and you say, right, the goal for this little micro plan is to achieve losing my weight, in your
Hmm.
example, get to the gym and get it done. I would say, Nathan, don't stop there. Like, set the
Yeah.
next goal, so maybe it's running a 5 kilometer race somewhere, or doing something with a partner or friends, family.
Yeah,
Get it happening.
exactly. You said it perfectly. Like, I've already reached my goal, and yeah, now I have another girl. Yeah, I also want to try doing some marathons because yeah, I've been improving my health. Because I guess the most important thing is once you is yes, you have a goal, but the goal should not just be the end. It should not
Yeah,
always be the end. There should be another goal for it. And sometimes, yes, for you, it took you years before, like, to get into marathons fully. I guess it's also very important that what you finish now, it's it's already a huge improvement. So we should always be contented with even with baby steps or very little improvements. What's important is that it
absolutely.
is still an improvement, or it's still one
Yeah,
step closer to our current goal.
absolutely.
And yeah, since you mentioned all of those things with being goal oriented, being having all these things, being a coach, uh, how did you really cope with, or how would you advise people to cope with their mental health problems or whatever it is they're going through right now?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So, I mentioned running, but actually, once I'd done a couple marathons, some people try to do things quicker, some people do things slower.
Mhm,
But actually, as I said before, and you're correct, my mother was my stimulus for waking me up to a lot of things. And I actually remember in 2021, I took a piece of paper and I wrote down, the bucket list that everyone talks about. That
mhm,
what are the things I want to do, that I've always wanted to do, and little things. So for me, what I realized is that exercise is a big part of my life. But I started researching about meditation. I know, some people have religion, which is, I suppose, a form of meditation in itself. But I started meditating. I had never read books. I went through school and I went through university, and I'd read textbooks, but I'd never read other books. And so I don't enjoy reading, but I started listening to audio books. And probably the last 3 years, I've read more books than I ever read in my entire life. And that was a way of coping. And then I think learning, like for me, I've realized the world is your oyster. I only get about six hours sleep every night. I'm trying to get more because I'm slowly realizing sleep is the most important thing.
yes.
But I also have this philosophy, that when life is over, things are final. That's when I'll be resting forever. So in the meantime, I need to take every opportunity I can get.
Yes.
So that's where I'm saying I think having a little plan, and again, it doesn't need to be a marathon.
Hmm.
Um, you got to learn how to run and walk. Walk, run before you get to a marathon. But I've started stand up paddling. I do mountain biking and really
Wow.
with nature. So for me, these are all. Hopefully, there's a lot of ideas there. But some people enjoy cooking.
Hmm.
One of my sons got a little passion for cooking, so sometimes we'll cook
Wow.
together. And I just think that when you start to look for it, there are just so many signs all around, and you can align with your passions, all these things. So, whether it's playing chess or doing sport,
Hmm.
for me, exercise, meditation, reading, mental, these are all ways of coping. And I suppose, formalizing the comfort zone coach, there's so many things out there that when you can tap into someone's passion, you generally find three, four, five, six different avenues that can really wake the mind up and the soul and the spirit, and get people's minds into a different plane. And so the nice thing also, Nathan, just tapping on what you said before, a comfort zone coach is not a it's not a set and forget thing. You
Hmm.
never, because and the one thing I've worked out is, I also train a group of people physically exercise, that the human body is such an amazing machine, and often people's bodies control their mind. If you're pushing weights in
Yes.
the gym, or you're trying to go for a walk, the body's saying, I'm tired, I'm sore. But if you can shift the mindset and take control, and I know this sounds strange, but actually use the mind to say, look, body, I don't care if you're sore. We're going to push harder today. And there's always at least 10% left in the tank. And the
Hmm.
crazy thing is that benchmark just keeps lifting and lifting and
Yes.
lifting. So the comfort zone can keep pushing and pushing, and some people see it as a circle or something defined, but the truth is it's metaphorical. And once you reach that comfort zone, you generally tend, as human beings, you tend to be able to push a little bit further,
Hmm.
and you find that the circle just keeps growing.
Yeah, that's perfect. You perfectly placed it. That the comfort zone. Yeah, you could start a small circle, but if you start taking things, a little over your supposed comfort zone, your supposed limits, you could you could actually do more amazing things than you could have imagined. Because yeah, again, going back to my life, because it started out at the gym, you do the same things over and over, the same amount of weight. What if I don't, maybe I could do it a little, like 10 kilograms more or something like that.
Or
Yeah,
quicker. Yeah.
yeah, smaller goals, or like instead of just running 1 kilometer, maybe I can do 2 kilometers today. And yeah, I love how you said that when we tap into our passions, we discover a lot of things that could actually be, our coping mechanisms, the good kind of coping mechanism. Yeah, because I love your story, because I kind of relate a lot to you, because with the with the whole exercise, reading, because during the pandemic I also started out. I also don't like reading as because I really don't like reading, but yeah, I prefer audiobooks because I can just keep it on running
Yeah.
nonstop. But yeah, I also ended up reading a lot of self-help books, and I also read leadership books and all that, how to
Yeah.
treat people properly, how you treat people while also improving yourself, and all that. Because I'm just glad that I was able to given this chance to be able to talk to you, and because I relate a lot to your story, and how as people say, I'm now using my mental illness as a
Mm.
means to inspire people that despite the
Correct.
fact I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder and clinical depression, I still make a living making people happy and using my, how you say, pain into
Yeah.
at least inspiring people, letting them know that they're not alone, and that the, you're not alone, and we'll be here to help you out. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much for, in behalf of everyone you've helped, everyone who you've coached. Your story really is very inspiring, and it's very, I guess, hits me close to home. And it's really amazing that in your case, I guess, just shifting your mindset can do a lot of things. I guess that's the
Yeah.
main goal of, like, what's
Also,
your main message.
yeah, look, they're bad days. There's
Hmm.
times when, as I said, I'm lucky that for me those days are fewer. For some people, they're much harder. And sometimes it's like you get a headache, you can take a tablet, and sometimes the headache goes away. But most times it's the water that you're drinking with the tablet that helps. So I
Hmm.
think in a similar way, I'm lucky I got that positivity with my mother. But there's days where you're down, or I have family members with bipolar disorder. So in your case, I
Hmm.
can resonate, with your predicament, and I understand that it's sometimes beyond your control. That's my point. But I think that's where community, family, it's
Hmm.
so important, because it helps for us to, sometimes you're in it and your mind is so clouded, you actually just wake up of a day and it's like, how's this day going to go?
Hmm.
And that's where it's really helpful having people outside saying, look, it's okay, today you're having that bad day, why don't I take you out and we'll let go of that dark space, that difficulty. um,
Hmm.
so I think, yeah, it's great what you guys are doing equally in just building a community that people feel okay, if it's not okay.
Hmm. Yeah, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
since we're talking about comfort zones and all that, what would you like advise people? Because there are, like, as you said, there are those days when our comfort zone, because it really isn't a solid thing. What if something bothers, or like disrupts these things we call our comfort zone? Or how what would you advise people, how they could deal with those things?
Yeah. So look, I think it depends what they are, but generally, I see a lot of Americans sometimes they say, get after it, like go after it, get after it, which is an interesting word of English words,
Mhm.
because it's almost like, uh, if you're finding a struggle, you can analyze it as much as you like. The
Mhm.
struggle's not going to go away.
Yeah,
It's what you do
exactly.
about the struggle that counts. So I think number one, know that you're never alone. Even if you don't have family or you don't have friends, you open your front door, you just go out on the street, there's someone there. And I would say distraction, if you're somebody who's got a predicament, maybe it's a terminal illness,
Mhm.
fatal. You can't get rid of it. Maybe it's not as drastic as that, and you've had an injury or a car accident or something, and it's short term. Maybe it's something as little as you just wake up in a bad mood on the day. So I think, we have choices. We're human beings. I think that what makes us different to animals, we have freedom of choice. And I think if you recognize that it is okay to not feel okay, and you also have the ability to ask for help, or go seek help. So I think it's also trying to get in tune with yourself and actually knowing I'm having a bad day today. Sometimes just staring in the mirror and saying, how do I look today? Oh, I look awful, or I had a bad night's sleep. So hopefully I'm giving a lot of little methods, I suppose. But I would say, number one, asking for help, like talking to someone and saying, I'm having a bad day, and just saying those words sometimes is liberating. So
Yes.
what? So I'm having a bad day. Now what? Now go out and get after it. Like, move on. And I think, again, however bad the day feels, sometimes action, so activity helps. And that's where, for me, all these things I've mentioned, sport, exercise, meditation, these are all little tools in my toolbox that help me get over it. And I think, again, when you tell somebody, I'm not feeling good today, someone can say, well, should we go for a walk? Anyone can do that. If you can't do that because you have a physical disability, shall we play a game? Shall we go to work? Shall we write? Take a pen and paper, write how you feel. So I think to me, action is really the point. That one, you can ask for help, and two, you can take action and just do stuff. Not necessarily do something about it, but just do stuff to distract your mind, because tomorrow you'll wake up, and if you're at the gym, you'll feel sore. But if you weren't, you'll feel better.
Yes.
So, and I think the other thing is, let's flip it the other way and just say, okay, well, what if you're someone who's having a good day and someone reaches out to you, or walks past you, and they just don't look themselves? I think it's easy. And it's in Australia, we've got a not-for-profit, and there's a slogan they advertise called, the letters R U OK. It's Ruach, like, are you okay? And so I think even just looking to someone and just crossing the street and you see a stranger and they look terrible, you just say, are you okay?
Yeah.
And those words are so powerful. So I think there's lots you can do. And again, for me, for the world struggling, or for friends and family around me, like I say, it's easy for me. It's easier for me because most days I wake up happy. And even if I don't, these are some of the coping techniques that I use to just kind of pick me up and lift me up and get out there and get after it.
Thank you for that. And I love how you phrased it. Like, so you're having a bad day. So this is gonna end there, that you're having a bad day, and
Yeah.
because sometimes, yeah, okay, I'm having a bad day, and we just end it there. We just, okay, I'm having a bad day, so everything that's gonna happen is because of this bad day. So instead of finding things that can actually, uh, help us from this rut or this hole we dug ourselves into,
Yeah.
and
And
yeah.
I think, Nathan,
Mhm.
also, sorry to interrupt you, I think, so like you said before, the self-help books and things. So again, I don't read novels. I enjoy reading. I mentioned David Goggins before. Another great book, The Rise of Superman. It talks about a flow state.
Wow.
So I'm always trying to learn. But interestingly enough, where I take the most lessons is from my kids, my children.
Mhm.
That they'll come home from a day of school. How was school? Fine. And it's the ethos of what we're saying, because they're just moving on to the next thing. They
Yeah.
don't actually want to talk about the day. They just want to talk
Mhm.
about, the gaming that they got to go to, or the friends they want to go and see. So I say the same thing. It's like, even just having a conversation with your kid sometimes when you're feeling down can really lift you up.
Mhm. That's very beautiful. I guess, yeah, communication. And yeah, listen, just because you're having a good day, because sometimes when we have a good day, we don't want anything to ruin this good day. But yeah, if you see someone who might need some help, who might need, just if you see someone a little down, yeah, it could, sometimes that could even make your good day even better. Uh,
100%. It
all
will.
right, so we just have a couple of questions for our audience. So, what
Okay.
things you didn't know when you were younger that you would want to tell yourself about mental health now?
Wow. That's a really good question. Um, I think just number one, being aware. When I was younger, I think I was more selfish,
Mm-hmm.
and you tend to focus in, and it's all about you and me and I. And so I think probably just being aware that you're not on this planet by yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
you affecting others, and you can affect others. Um, and so probably my answer would be, I wish I was, I don't have regrets, but had I just been more aware of maybe what my
Mm-hmm.
parents were going through
Yes.
at the time. So probably just awareness is something, and that maybe
Mm-hmm.
that comes with age and wisdom. But something I've tried to instill in my children, that it's not just about you.
Mm-mm.
It's about the world out there and the community and people you can help.
Yes, and that's very beautiful because sometimes we just focus on the things we can do for ourselves. We forgot that our actions can sometimes affect the people around us, be it negatively or positively. Well, Glenn, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. Now, but before we officially end this wonderful interview, what would you want to say to all our viewers or well, to all your listeners or who are around, or especially now,
Yeah.
you'll have an audience from the Philippines who are struggling with finding a comfort zone with their mental health and all those things.
I would probably just say, um, oftentimes things can appear really difficult and really bad and really challenging. But just, I suppose, always know that there's people out there that love and care.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're religious, maybe it's a priest. If you don't have family, maybe it's just a friend. But you're never alone. And one thing we know is, unfortunately, in this life, there's generally someone worse off than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not nice to use that to think about.
Yes.
But like I say, you can always step out there and ask for help. And there is so much you can do that even if you feel down, it's even in the days that you're having good days, maybe sit back and identify what is my toolbox and who are the people that can help me, so that when the days are bad, you can go straight to those people. And sometimes it's best to not just have one person, because you can feel like you put a burden on somebody, but you don't want to burden anybody. But sometimes it's just good to also have a nice mastermind group of advisors around you. So
Mm-hmm.
that would probably be my best advice: is don't wait for the bad day. Use every day like it's the last, and make it enjoyable, make it pleasurable. And again, if you can find people that are positive and optimistic around you, it's the days that are bad where they can really help pick you up. And again, writing things down is helpful, because maybe even write down all the things that make you happy and the activities that make you happy. And so when you're having a bad day, you don't really have to think about it. You can just turn to that plan and say, oh, okay, there's my short list, my wish list. Let me pick off one of those things and go and do it today. And
Mm-hmm.
just doing that activity will take your mind off the hard times.
All right, that's very beautiful. Thank you for yeah. I love how you put it. You should have this toolbox of the things that you could make you happy, could make you do, and that it's just all part of your. As I say, when you go hiking, make sure every tool is in your backpack to
Yeah.
make sure that.
Or something simple like a shirt. Like, I'll just show you. This
Oh,
is
fearless warrior.
yeah. I know, because I was seeing that Leslie is a mental health warrior. But I also, my goal is to develop a line of apparel. But
Mm,
this is one of mine. It's the Fearless Warrior shirt, and I like to wear it. And it's something even that could just lift you up. That if actions speak louder than words, they say.
mhm.
So even just putting on a T-shirt that every time you go wash your hands in the mirror, you're seeing a reminder. Little things like that.
Yeah, little things that could uplift yourselves. Even the smaller things could go a very long way. So, well, thank you very much for today, Glenn. I had so much fun. I really learned a lot, and especially the fact that my story is a little similar to yours. And so, if people wanted to hear more from you, where could they catch you?
Yeah, so please, look, go visit comfortzonecoach.com.au. You can also type "Outside Your Comfort Zone" podcast with Glenn Miller. You should find me, where the podcast is on pretty much every
Hmm.
device. It will load native on your device. A lot of the topics we've covered are there. I would say go back to episode 1 and 2, and obviously start at the beginning, because
Hmm.
generally they show you the most recent episode. And I also interview some experts in Australia, some clinical psychologists, physiologists, exercise, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, just Google Glenn Miller, Australia or Sydney,
Hmm.
uh, comfort zone coach, outside your comfort zone, and hopefully you'll find me on all your main devices.
All right, thank you very much, Glenn. And again, that was our speaker, Glenn
Thank
Miller.
you.
For today, you can check out his Outside the Comfort Zone podcast, especially here in the Philippines. The most popular ones for us are like Spotify and Apple podcasts, also SoundCloud, I think. I'm looking at
Yep,
your, yeah. So we have a ton of avenues where you can check out a lot of the talks or a lot of the podcast episodes that Glenn here has. So again, thank you very much, Glenn. I hope we didn't take too much of your time. Thank you very much.
not at all.
In behalf of the ALPAS mental health community, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity for
Thank
letting
you for
us
having
take
me.
your time in sharing your your story, this whole this wonderful story of about comfort zones and you know moving through adversity and using that adversity to inspire people and better yourself and help out other people in bettering themselves. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for having me. I look forward to the community reaching out. I'll always answer questions and just wish everybody good luck. I'm honored to have been able to present with you today. So thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. It was our pleasure. It was a huge honor. And before we go ahead and fully end today's today's interview, today's webinar, will be serenaded by a couple of our friends here from Alpas Mental Health Community, starting off with Miss Carol Monica.
That's inside of my soul. It's the one that I've tried to write over and over again. I'm awake in the infinite cold, but you sing to me over and over and over again. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. Sing to me the song of the stars, of your galaxy dancing and laughing again. When it feels like my dreams are so far, sing to me of the plans that you have for me over again. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. I give you my destiny. I'm giving you all of me. I want your symphony, singing in all that I am. At the top of my lungs, I'm giving it back. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only
This is an original song called Life Goes On. I hope we move forward amidst the challenges that we are facing right now. You guys take care. been strong enough. We're moving on. 'Cause life is a challenge, love is a courage. Life goes on, life goes on. We have been strong enough, we're moving on. 'Cause life is a challenge, love is a courage. Move on, head on, head on, head on, head on. Move on, head on, head on, head on, head on.
All right, that was Carol, Monica, and Laura Jane. And all right, so that ends it for today's stream or today's what do we call this event? Anyway, that ends it for today. So we hope you guys learned something or picked up something about taking care of ourselves, taking care of the people around us, and also don't forget to check out Glenn Miller's podcasts, Outside the Comfort Zone. You can check it out on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, all others. You can just, yeah. We'll be also posting links. We'll be updating the description of today's stream with all the links, so we can go ahead, so you guys can go ahead and check out the stuff that Glenn Miller has made, especially his Outside the Comfort Zone podcast. And in behalf of everyone here at ALPAS Mental Health Community, my name has been Nathan Santos. I hope you guys have a wonderful week up ahead. Work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. And remember that you are not alone.